Hey, hi guys. Good evening all. Welcome. So this is Vikas here. So let's get started. We'll be discussing or we'll be talking about DevOps release management. So we will take it step by step. For the agenda for today is what is DevOps? Why are we using DevOps? And then we talk about DevOps. What is release management? What is DevOps release management? What are the release management process components? What are the strategies in which you can do release management? And what benefit do you get when you do a release management? And then the tools which are used to do this particular activity. Now, before we get started, a quick introduction about me. So my name is Vikas. I work as a senior cloud architect in one of the big 4 companies here in Bangalore. I have overall 13 years of IT experience and have good expertise on DevOps and cloud. So the first thing which we'll be talking about is what is DevOps. So when it comes to what is DevOps, we will be talking about software development lifecycle, okay, or SDLC. So when we say software development lifecycle, we are basically talking about what are we doing in the IT industry. Now, if it's a car manufacturing company, it is manufacturing car. If it is a airlines company, it is doing the airlines part. But in IT industry, in the software industry, what are we doing? So we are developing softwares and we are giving it to our customers. Now assume, I'll give you a hypothetical situation. So let me say I'm a company X and there is a customer who got a contract to distribute COVID-19 vaccines. So he comes to me and says that I need a software and this software should run on mobile app, it should run on my web browser, and it should have these many features. So I should be able to show them the availability of my COVID vaccines. They should be able to book a slot. They should be able to do payment. And I need all these things in 3 weeks. Means he told me his requirement and he's telling that the payment should be enabled, means the website must be secure, the website must be easy to use, and out of all this he also told me the time frame, time to market, means how quickly he would like to get his website up and running. So he has clearly told me that what his requirement is. So requirement means the client comes to you and he will tell you what he wants. Many a times he may not be very much clear, but at least he will give you a prototype of what he wants. Then you come up with a design. You will understand his requirement and you say, okay, fine, Java looks a good option for this, or for mobile app, Android looks a good option. So let's code in Android. These are the features which I'll put in your website. These are the features which you may not have. These are the additional features which you may have. This is the time frame and this is the budget, or this is the commercial which will be associated with this. Everything is agreed upon and then you go and start the development. So there will be a team of developers who will start development for you. They will start writing the code, and once they write the code, they will do the unit testing. Whatever code they are writing, they write in some high level language. It can be Java, Python, .NET, Golang, any such high level language. Then this high level language, whatever they have done, is to be compiled and converted into a artifact or a binary format or a machine readable code. Once this machine readable code is available, they will pass it this to your testing team, and the testing team will go ahead and run the test cases. Once the test cases are clear, all kind of testing is done, they will give it to my deployment team. The deployment team is one who will deploy the code and give it to the prod environment or give it to the customer. So this is the area where we will be talking about today. How to do deployment, and when I say deployment, what do I mean? So when I say deployment, it is preparing the software to run and operate on the specific environment. In my example, this specific environment is my client's production environment. So whatever you have developed, you have to give it to the client and you have to deploy it to the client's production environment. And there is where he will run it, and then you do production support monitoring. So talk about any project on any environment. This is what we are doing. We take the requirement from the client, we design, develop, test, and finally deploy the code to the production environment. And once it is there in the production environment, we monitor, and in case there are some bugs, we report it back. So When I say that I will be doing this, I will do development, I'll do testing. It is not that easy. You cannot think like I told I will do development and it is done. It needs a lot of planning and it needs a lot of skill to make this thing happen. When I say it needs a lot of planning, so what we do is we follow software development methodology, or we follow ways to develop software. When we talk about 10 years back, 5 years back, we used to follow waterfall model. This waterfall model had its own limitations. Now we are not using waterfall model, but 10 years back from now, we were using waterfall model, where we were designing monolithic architecture, means one single big piece of software. In one server only, everything is there. It had problem, like if one of the component is not working, you have to stop everything, fix it, and again bring it back. So there was a lot of downtime in terms of monolithic application. I had physical servers which I need to buy, and then I had to start using them. And I had in-house data center, means I only have to manage my data center, hardware upgrade, software patching, network maintenance, all these things I only had to do it. From waterfall model, we moved ahead and we came to agile methodology. In agile, we are doing almost the same thing, but this monolithic application, we are breaking into small pieces. Each sprint, we take one story and we say, we will work on this, and we try to deliver that to the client. Here, we are no more using physical servers, but we are using virtual machines. We are no more using in-house data centers, but hosted environment. It is a kind of development, it is kind of progress which we did, but still there is a lot to go. Still, there is one major problem which we see most of the times. This is the problem. As a developer, you understand everything what's happening in the development side. You know what code changes has to be done. You know everything about development, but then it comes to production or deployment side, you don't know, because you are a developer. The other guy who is from operations, he knows everything about deployment. He knows how the servers are running, but he doesn't know anything about the development. And there is where this wall of confusion comes into picture. When you develop something, you test it in your local environment and you give it to the operations guy to put it on his prod environment and run it. The moment you put it there, he says, hey, it's not working, take it back. And he raises a bug and gives it back to you. You again test it on your environment, in your local environment, and you see it is working perfectly fine. You again start giving it back to him, saying that no, it is working perfectly fine. So now both of you are fighting. Now, because both of you are fighting, we don't know who is the culprit. And in this fight, who is the one who is suffering? It is my customer who is suffering. My customer told that I need it in 3 weeks, but I spent a good amount of time in passing the ball from one end to another. And at the end of the day, I am not able to meet the deadline. Now, because I have not met the deadline, I have not delivered the stuff to client. He is unhappy about it. He is very much angry about it. And probably he will take away the contract. And next time he will not give me the contract again. So I lose reputation in the market. To solve this problem, we come up with a new approach, which is known as DevOps. Here we say that we are not going to develop a monolithic application. Rather, we will develop a microservice-based architecture. In this microservice-based architecture, I will have containers, I will have Docker containers, I will have Kubernetes, and all these things I will do on cloud environment. So now I can do deployment multiple times in a day. In fact, you will be very much shocked to know that companies like Amazon, they deploy 23,000 times in a day. Google, 5,500 times in a day. Netflix, 500 times a day. Facebook, once at least a day. So all the major companies in this IT industry are doing quick deployment. How they are able to do this deployment? So this deployment they are able to do because they use DevOps model. They quickly code, test, deploy. Now, if there is some small change required, they can quickly make that change and deploy it to production. So if they are very fast to react to the customer's problem, obviously the customers will be very much happy. And if the customers are happy, the business will grow. And if the business will grow, the IT team working for that business will grow. So this is a little bit background which I would like to give you on DevOps. When DevOps comes into market, along with that, a lot of rumors will come. Somebody will say DevOps is a tool. Somebody will say DevOps is a team. DevOps is about tools. DevOps is all about scripting. I will say no. DevOps is a cultural change. It is a change in the way you think. It is change in the way you work. Let me give you an example. So most of you might have watched a cricket match. So in a cricket match, there is a specialist bowler, there is a specialist batsman, there is a specialist wicket keeper. Then there are all-rounders. All-rounders are one who are capable of doing almost everything. Today, you want them to bat, they can. They can bowl, they can do wicket keeping, they can do fielding. So in our IT industry, we need such kind of people. There will be a team of developers, there will be a team of testers, there will be a team of production support engineers. But on top of this, I need a team of all-rounders who can do development, production support monitoring, testing, and whatever work is assigned to them, they will be able to do it. Okay. So I will say DevOps is a change in the thought process. It is change in the way you think. Now, because my client is talking about quality, time to market, I will talk about automation, because if I don't automate, I will end up doing the same task again and again, and it will be time consuming. I'll give you an example. Now there is a database. I have to take a backup of this database every day at 11 o'clock in the night. There are 10 lines of code which I have to execute every day. So someone has to get up in the night, execute the code, send me the output, and then he will go and sleep. One fine day he forgot, and then I was not able to take a backup. Unluckily, the same day the hardware crashed and I lost all my data. It's a big blunder. Alternatively, if you would have implemented DevOps, you would have done some kind of automation. Automatically, this backup will be taken. Once the backup is done, you get an email in your inbox. So morning when you get up, you just check your inbox and you're happy that it is done. If it is not, you take the necessary action. So when I talk about DevOps, I will talk about automation. To do automation, I will need tools, and I will like to implement the best practices of those tools. I will try to bring agility to my team so that if tomorrow customer changes the requirement, I can change along with the customer, and it is overall a cultural change. Okay, so let's go ahead further and talk about the other aspects. So what is DevOps? This was the agenda first topic. So we already discussed it. So it says DevOps is a methodology where I bring my development and operations together. So as a developer, I got the requirement from my client. I start writing the code. This code is written in a high level language, and then I transform this code, or I build this code or compile this code and make it into a machine readable or a binary code. Once this binary code is available, I pass it on to my tester so that he can do the testing. Once the tester is ready with his testing, I am all set. I'm all ready to deploy it or release it to my production environment or my UAT environment. So release is nothing but the movement of code from your test region to the UAT or prod region. And once the code goes and sits here, it says, we say the code has been deployed or the code has been moved. Obviously, once the code is moved, it will start working in the prod environment where production support team will be monitoring it, and they will tell me what is going on. Is it working as expected? Are there some errors? Are the customers facing any kind of a problem? So I will come to know about all these things. And this is a complete DevOps cycle. You can see development and operations both work as one single unit. So now I will take it a step ahead and I say it is not only DevOps, I will say it is DevSecOps. So development, security, and operations, and QA, quality assurance, quality testing is also done. So all these things are now delivered as one single item. You don't treat development separate, testing separate, operations separate, security separate. I treat all of them as one single unit and I bring it under one single umbrella and I called it DevOps. In DevSecOps, which additional part gets added in the DevOps cycle as shown by you. So the cycle which I show you here, security is not there. Development, QA and operations is there. But when you talk about security, one additional aspect of security will come here. It will be something like this. So let me just go ahead. Now, if you remember the diagram which I showed you some time back, probably this diagram, there is something called release. And we said that we will be focusing on this part right now. To me, this is one of the most important aspect in this entire delivery pipeline. So it is like you are preparing for an exam for the entire year, and you have to deliver. You have to go and write the exam. So if preparing for exam is important, writing the exam properly is also important. So if you have spent a good amount of time in coding and testing, you should deliver it. You should go and deploy it efficiently. And that's the reason we are talking about release management, where we say it is a process of managing, planning, scheduling, and controlling the software built through different stages and environment, which includes testing, deploying, software release. So I'll go one by one. So it says you have to manage the software release. So let me say you are deploying something, you're deploying a new piece of code for Flipkart. Flipkart is an application which runs 24/7. It means if on the peak hours, let me say Saturday, Sunday, 12 o'clock, there are a lot of customers who are buying or trying to buy something from the portal. Or let me say you're working with Netflix. On a weekday or a weekend, there are many customers who are watching some show. If you start deploying at that time, what will happen? The customers will start facing problems. So you need to manage, you need to decide when to deploy. So this is scheduling, planning. You plan, okay, probably night 3 a.m. there will be very limited customers, so we can go ahead and deploy. Then while deploying, are you going to deploy 100% or you are going to deploy it in a step-by-step manner? So it is always advised that you don't deploy everything in one single shot. You go step by step. Let me say you have deployed to 20% of your servers. You check how are the server responding? Are the customers happy? Is there any glitch? Is there any bug? If no, another 20%, another 20%. And finally, you update the entire server. Android. So when you see Android, they will release one update in one particular region. They will wait for the customers. If customers are complaining, customers are not happy, they will make the changes and then again they will deliver another slot. They go slot by slot. So exactly the same thing is what I'm doing. The software build which I have done, there were testing, development and all those things. I did all those things. Now when it is ready to be deployed, I'm managing it, planning it, scheduling it, and deploying deploying this code change in a very controlled manner. So now let's talk about what is DevOps release management. So in DevOps also, we plan, we schedule, and we control our software development and delivery process. So when we have to deploy, we'll not simply go and deploy. We will have a thought process behind that, how and when we are going to deploy. If something goes wrong, how we do a rollback. So we will take care of all the aspects. So IT operations, developers, they collaborate. Okay, this Friday we are going to deploy. All the developers should be available. All the IT operations guys should be available. And we start from the very beginning and we go till the end. So we do the deployment. But DevOps makes this deployment process small and there will be few loopholes and faster release. So earlier, if the deployment used to take 6 hours or let me say 1 day, now it will take a very small amount of time. Now you will say, why is he that much concerned about deployment? So let me come here and tell you something. New York Stock Exchange glitch. Let me open this. Okay. Now, you might have heard about New York Stock Exchange. If you do any kind of trading or anything, you might have heard about it. Now, there was some connectivity issue, some software glitch. Because of this, trading of all the stock was stopped at 10 a.m. So 10 a.m. in the morning, when almost everybody is ready to do trading or has done a kind of trading, the trading was stopped, and it did not resume till 11:35. At 11:35 a.m. when it reduced, after 20 minutes later, then it was globally set by NYSE. So simple is that there was a huge impact and there were a lot of problems. They lost connectivity between the servers. The customers were not able to trade. And finally, they wanted to fix it. They were working on it and they were able to fix around 2:30 p.m. Means approximately we lost from 10 a.m. till 2:30 p.m. So this is a big deal. There are millions and millions of trade which is going to happen. Now, it was a huge financial loss. When they started talking, or when they started talking about the problem, they came to know that the deployment, the changes were not deployed properly. This is one of the instances which I'm talking about, where the New York Stock Exchange did not take the latest change because there was a huge problem in trading. Manually, the trades have to be cancelled. There were 70,000 plus trades which were cancelled. Many people lost money. Okay, obviously after a long fight they were able to get their money back, but there was a huge setback for this stock exchange. Any company would never want to be in such a situation. So we plan our deployment and we try to make it as short as possible, as fast as possible, so that the impact on the customers should be minimum. So one thing which you understood is, when I say deployment, when I say release, what do I mean by that? Okay. Now, one another thing which I understood is that the release should be planned. You cannot simply go ahead and say, okay, today I want to release, and you will go and release it. So when I release in a DevOps world, I create something called release pipeline. It is also known as CI/CD pipeline. So if I have to show you this, so if I come here and say Jenkins pipeline. So Jenkins is one of the tools which we use very widely for doing deployment. So I am going with Jenkins pipeline. So this is how a typical Jenkins pipeline look like. So you create a release pipeline, something like this. So as a developer, the developer will put the code here and he will get the output. Internally, there will be a lot of things which will be happening. Okay, so you will put your code in Git, you will do a Git checkout, you will build your code, you will test, deploy. So there are a lot of things which are happening in the background. Now this is very similar when you go and say, I want to learn how to drive a four-wheeler. Does the school, the four-wheeler learning school, tell you, see, this is the gear system, this is the fuel system, this is a four-stroke engine, this is that? They don't tell you about the inner complexity, what's happening inside. They only tell you this is ABC, accelerator, brake, clutch, this is the steering, you have to drive. And then they tell you the bare minimum things which is needed. Exactly the same thing is what I want to do. As a developer, I will tell him that you have to put your code here, and here you will get the output. What is happening inside is me as a DevOps engineer is concerned about it. So you should not be concerned about it. So here I will create a release pipeline, a CI/CD pipeline, and I will go ahead and put my components inside. There will be a release value stream. So what is all these things? In the coming slides, I will talk. Release value stream, release policy, release template, release plan. So I have a pipeline, stream, policy, template, plan. Similarly, on the deployment side, I have plan, release unit, what you want to release package, major release, minor release. So let's talk about these components one by one. So when I say a release pipeline, I'm particularly talking about a release process from planning to delivery. So I told you in the beginning that as a software development team, we take the requirement from client and we give him the delivery. So he says, I need a website. We give him the website. So the process involved to take the requirement and then deliver the product is known as a release process or release pipeline. Release value stream. Now, let me say the customer has asked for 5 features. But while working, I saw that I can add one more feature, and that is a very small task for him. So I can do a value add. This makes my customer feel more happy and more connected. Then I have release policy. Now, there are many softwares which are released and they say that this release is only applicable to customers who have so and so hardware. Let me give you an example. So when Apple, they release an update, they release a new OS, they clearly mention that this update is for iPhone 9 and above. So this is policy, means the minimum requirement, the minimum standards which you should meet before making a change. Release template. Now, every time when you make a release, you should have a set template where you will say, okay, first item is this, second item is this, third item is this. I do all these things so that I do not miss on any important aspect. Release plan, as I told you, planning is very important. You cannot simply go ahead and deploy anything unless and until you plan, unless until you have a deployment plan. There are high chances that you will fail in the deployment. Just randomly somebody told you go and deploy this, you're not going to deploy that. There has to be a plan. Now, release unit. Now let me say I have 10 developers and 10 developers have changed 10 different codes. I cannot deploy one by one. What I will do is I'll put all the 10 codes together. I'll make one single deployable unit and I will deploy that at one shot. That's called release unit. Then all the changes, whatever you have, all the dependencies, scheduling, business priorities, you put them in one single unit, and that's called release package. So many of the terminologies you will see which are overlapping. So major release means there is a major change in the functionality. Minor releases, there is a small change in the functionality. So it is not a very critical work which you are deploying. So I see strategies of deployment. So strategies of deployment are divided into 4 categories. There is a slow cadence, means there is a release window. So whatever happens, I will release the change at the end of the month. Even if the customers have raised 10 complaints, I will make the change at the end of the month. That is called release window or slow cadence. So you have a release window, you have the date and time fixed, and you will go by that only. Release train means it's a constant change, like how I showed you Netflix and Amazon. The customers are raising something and I quickly go and make a change because there is a pipeline running and the change what I want to do is immediate. Release window means you quickly react to customers requirement. Okay, not as quick as release train, but quickly. So customer says I need this, you say okay, give me a week's time, I'll fix it and I'll give it to you. So this is called quick cadence. You quickly respond to the customers this thing. And continuous release availability. So that release should be available, means you should be ready with something to do the release. See here, there is a release window, a period of time where you want to get and do the release. Release train means the strategy is used for large programs or teams. So when there is a large change to go, you make small changes and keep moving it on a regular basis. Quick cadence, you less likely to suffer from bottleneck because as and when the customer raises a concern, you go and work on that and make it happen. And here, this approach delivery allows you to release the solution into the production whenever they need to. So whenever customer says, I go ahead and do it. So this is what I am doing. I'm quickly doing the release, and as per the customer's requirement, I'm going and doing the release. Once I'm releasing the change, the customer is the one who is getting benefited. So I accelerate time to value. So if customer says I need it today, I give him today. And there is where the customer becomes happy. The release throughput is high, means every time I add value to my release. Enhance agility and flexibility. The team members know that if there is a requirement, I have to do it today itself. That is a very good thing. Increase productivity. The team members are more answerable. They cannot say that I'll do it tomorrow. Eliminates duplicate and manual intensive work. So you don't have to do any manual work, duplicate work. Most of the tasks can be automated. And mitigate release failures. So if you do a big release, let me say you are having 10 components and you move all of them together, there are high chances that one of them may fail. So you go small releases you put every time. Now, why Edureka? What Edureka is going to give you? So Edureka gives you a structured learning platform. So here you need to know what is Git, learn what is Git, do hands-on. You need to know how to integrate Jenkins, Maven together, do hands-on. What is continuous integration when it comes to Jenkins? What is continuous management using using Ansible? What is monitoring using Prometheus Grafana? Containerization tool like Docker, Kubernetes. Then you need to learn Terraform. And finally, if you learn all these things, you full-fledgedly become a certified DevOps engineer. Obviously, all these things which we are doing, we'll be doing on cloud environment. So you also learn a little bit about cloud. Obviously, I will be using tools because I told I want to automate the process. I want to make the process quick. So to release, there are multiple tools available. And if you go by market share, Jenkins is one of the tools which is very widely used. And with Jenkins, you can do build, test, deploy very fast. So there is release, Octopus deploy, task top, launch darkly, chef, Jenkins, urban code, salt stack, and Clarive. So these are tools which are available in the market, and using Jenkins or any other tool, you will be able to do the deployment. So this is all what we have for today. Okay, see you then guys. Bye bye. Have a nice day.